Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Good morning.
Ruth. Hey, Ruth. Haven't seen you for a while. So remember, Friday is the Halloween party at the office. Costumes mandatory. 12 o'clock.
That's the witching hour?
The witching hour. You do have a costume?
Yeah.
What is it?
I can't tell you.
Well, good morning, everybody. How are you today? So we have, Sarah, are you going to have anything that you want to add or contribute today?
I can give a quick rate update if you like.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Rates today, we actually had some improvement. They've been increasing quite steadily the last couple of days. So we're kind of back to where we were almost about a month ago. So assuming a conforming loan balance, 75% loan to value, 760 credit score, you're looking at a range of 6.387 to 6.75 with 0 to 1 points being charged. High balance on anything up to 970-800, you're looking at a range of 6.625 to 6.999%, again with 0 to 1 points being charged. And your jumbo loan, you're looking at about 6.5 to 6.75 with 0 to 1 points being charged. So everyone's kind of looking forward to what's going to happen at the next November meeting with the Fed. You know, thoughts are maybe they won't be as aggressive this rate hike, but you know, it's still up in the air.
Okay, so I want to put some of those numbers into context. If we were to assume $1 million purchase price, 20% down, the buyer's diminishing, unfortunately, purchasing power is pretty substantial. So once again, if we were to assume they could qualify for an $800,000 loan at a rate of 5%, what could they qualify for? A $625,000 loan, and that equates to $218,000 in reduced purchasing power. Likewise, if we were to compare a 3% interest rate to a 6% interest rate, the buyer could only now qualify for $565,000 or a purchase price of $706,250. So in comparing a 3% rate, 20% down, $1 million purchase, the difference in purchasing power is $294,000. How about one more extreme example at 7%? Unfortunately, we're not there today, simply probably because of price improvement today. But the same buyer could only qualify for a $510,000 loan, 20% down. That equates to a loss of $362,000 in purchasing power. So why am I going over that? Well, for those that have listings, obviously you certainly need to educate your clients about how they should be pricing their properties today. It's unreasonable to think that there are as many buyers in that price range with such high interest rates currently today. So you need to adjust. Don't be the last one on the street to adjust your price. Otherwise, you'll never sell the house. So it's something to keep in mind as you're speaking to your sellers, as a matter of fact, when having that unpleasant discussion of price reductions. Or if they're going to be listing aggressively in terms of the price, it's going to be much more beneficial. And if the value is there, it's going to sell anyways. If it's not, the purchase price is going to dictate what the value of their property was. So today we have, pardon me?
Sorry, and I was just going to tag on to that. If anyone has is not aware of the buy downs that are available right now, the temporary buy downs, please reach out to me. I've gone over it a couple of times in a training last week and then in another meeting. But if you don't have that information, please let me know so I can get it to you. It's something that's beneficial for both on the buying side and the selling side.
Thank you. It's very important in terms of affordability. Call Sarah. Any questions before we continue? No? We have a guest speaker today, and that's guest speaker Cece Robles. Now, I know Cece from Orange County Realtors, and T. Haynes is with us also. They work together. Cece is the MLS director and also the director of professional standards, so I do get to work with her in various aspects. So,
Yes.
She was generous enough to volunteer her time. And part of the reason we wanted to go over, there's certain things that's going to be in her presentation. And I think that could be alluding to violations. Now, maybe we'll ask her to address this further, but CRMLS is stepping up enforcement. And not only that, but they're notifying Orange County Realtors or every board in terms of the number of violations associated with each office. At this point in time, we don't know what those repercussions could possibly be, but we don't want to be at the top or near the top of the list and face additional scrutiny. So keep that in mind as we continue throughout the discussion here. So Cece, I'm going to allow you to take over. I'm going to make you, sorry, I should have done this already, a co-host. And T, I'll do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. Just to do, am I the co-host? So
Yes.
in today's presentation, we actually have a few gift cards to give out to you today. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Where is that? We're gonna go, oops. Oh shoot, you guys saw the answers.
Now I have 5 people in the room I'm in, so I want all 5 to be entered, by the way. I'm kidding about that.
All right. I gotta play it. Oh, there you go. All right. So today's presentation is going to be on the top 5 violations for the month of October. So with that said, I know if you guys saw the answers, but for a gift card, if anybody can guess what's the #1 violation, and then go ahead and T will help me in the chat. So what are the top 5 violations you guys think that, you know, agents are getting fined for or going to hearing for?
Photos?
Photos. I think photos is #2.
Oh, that's an that's a
Just photos too.
that's a $1,500 fine.
That is a $1,000 fine. Any
Yeah.
others?
Who else?
Inaccurate description. Go ahead.
Not
Someone said,
marketing yourself correctly.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, what
Not
was
mar-
that?
Not marketing yourself correctly by putting your DRE number and who your broker number is or something like that.
That is a violation, but it's not yet the top 5 for the MLS.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's one, right.
CC Ruth said not putting the listing in on time.
Okay, that could be #4, the listing status.
And
Okay.
then Karam said housing discrimination.
That is a big one, but it's not MLS. Well, yeah, no, not MLS.
I think we're talking about MLS violations at the moment. I don't know. I'm sure that must be. Karam. That was funny, Karam. So, status changes.
That would go under listing status.
All right.
3 more.
CC, we have missing broker information.
Missing broker information. A little bit more to that. An accurate description.
Inaccurate description? That was Ryan's guess.
What do you mean by an accurate description? Like not describing the properly correctly? Saying it's white and then it's blue when you get there?
Or misstating the number of bedrooms, baths, things of that nature, square footage.
Or maybe
You know
incorrect information.
Yeah.
Incorrect
You said
information.
that. That was #1.
Yay.
Number
Oh.
1.
Okay, I'll piggyback on Ryan.
All right. Any other 2 guesses?
We have no signed contract.
Oh,
False description and late listing input.
We could put it under property description. And then the last one, all of the ones you guys said, they're still violations. They're just not the top 5. The #5 one is that agents are not disclosing if they have an interest in the property, such as saying, hey, I'm also the owner of 123 Main Street and the listing agent. So make sure that anytime you're doing that, make sure you're disclosing that. And then T, did you get the agent's name for that gift card, that one, the inaccurate data?
Yes, that
Okay.
is, yes. Oh, go ahead and write it down.
All right. So with that said, I just kind of want to go over a little bit more detailed. What are the top violations? How do they happen? And how do you avoid these type of violations? The first one, this one's very popular. It's Rule 12.5. It's misuse of public remarks, right? Typically, this violation typically occurs when an agent puts information in the property description they're not supposed to, such as open house information, such as terminology, such as this property is vacant. That is not allowed in the MLS. Another thing's not allowed. You're not allowed to put any gate codes, any showing instructions, any compensation information. You're not allowed to put any branding information, such as your email address, your phone number, your agent information. And like somebody mentioned earlier, you're not allowed to use any language that's going to be fair housing laws or guidelines. Okay. CRMLS will automatically remove that from you. Okay. Any questions regarding the property description? Usually when you're describing the property description, you want to be sure that you're just putting remarks into the property traits and to what the property actually looks like describe the property. Okay. Now, CRMLS does have a list as the guidance of what kind of phrases to avoid. For example, I know that's very popular for a lot of people to put in apartments or even in those one-room gas, like non-smokers, females only. Make sure you're avoiding that, because now you're discriminating against smokers or not being a female. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, nothing.
Oh, okay. So if you guys want more detail than that, there is a website for you. And then after our training, we're going to go ahead and send Richard a copy of the PowerPoint just so you guys have this as the resource. Okay.
Okay.
Now keep in mind, CRMLS does allow you to use the syndication remarks. And I actually encourage agents to use the syndication remarks, especially to kind of highlight yourself and highlight the property, just because these remarks do go out to syndicated sites such as Redfin, Zillow, Trulia type of deal. So this is where you kind of want to put, the highlight of the property, your phone number, your email. How do you want people to contact you? And then you're also able to put in this field a virtual tour that's branded. It gives you the option to put a branded and non-branded version. Okay. MLS Rule 8.3, accuracy of information. So we all know that it's the agent's responsibility to put everything in the MLS as best to their knowledge. We get this a lot where agents are like, well, Cece, the owner told me it's 4 bedrooms. When we actually go into the property, it's only 3. So if you're going to put 4 bedrooms, make sure that you're putting the correct resource and not putting assessor. There's an option to put owner, but you want to be careful with that. Okay. Make sure that you're only putting how many bedrooms, how many baths, anything that's unpermitted or non-permitted. Make sure that you are putting that in additional remarks. Okay, any questions so far in regards to 8.3?
Can I add something to that? Now,
Yes.
in terms of information submitted to the MLS, inaccurate information could be a Civil Code 1088 violation. So please keep that in mind. It could be much more severe than just a violation of the rules and regulations. So certainly a good practice for anyone who's listing properties to complete the information in the MLS, have the seller initial and or sign those pages confirming it's their representation of the information that's on the MLS. So if there's any litigation, someone else making a claim, well, we had that seller review that and they gave us their approval. So please, that's a great practice for us to follow. Yes, Ryan.
Yeah, so when I go into new homes and show homes, like the majority of it's like it's a loft area, not a bedroom, and they always so that would be a violation per se if you had a loft and you said that's a bedroom, it had no closets.
I would assume it's up to them to provide that description, but in many cases, the builders' homes aren't on the MLS also. So
not builders' homes, just open house.
I see. Yeah, it very well could be a violation if someone doesn't really recognize that. Thank you, Cece. Sorry.
No problem. And then just to kind of jump on accurate information, anytime you have a property and either a pending or active under contract status, make sure that you're updating that estimated close date, because CRMLS does send you 4 notices. They send you a notice saying, hey, Cece, your property on 123 Main Street is about to come up for close of escrow. If it's going to go ahead and extend it, please do so. So CRMLS sends you a 14-day notice, a 7-day notice, a 3-day notice, a 1-day notice, and the day of. So on the 5th one, if you don't correct it, it's going to auto close on you. And guess what? Now you're going to receive a violation of $250. And at that point, you're not able to edit the listing because the listing has actually auto sold. I don't know if you guys have seen how that looks. It kind of looks like this, like when you're running some data in the MLS and you see a listing that has a red flag. That means that the listing auto sold and the agent hasn't confirmed the actual close of escrow. So that sometimes messes our data, because a lot of agents use this type of data to use their comparables. So make sure that you're just updating. I know that your broker does get CC'd on this. So if you're saying, well, Cece, I was out of town, you can always shoot your broker office manager an email saying, hey, I need you to go ahead and extend this property, or actually this property was sold a week before the estimated close price, okay? Because it is a violation for that. And to kind of go over the statuses, I know CRMLS has introduced 2 statuses over the couple of years. So the first one is active. You know that the property's for sale. You guys are taking offers, are being solicited. Active under contract, that means that an offer has been submitted. However, the seller's going to go ahead and entertain backup offers just because the offer submitted has some contingencies. Hold do not show. Okay, so hold do not show, this status says that the listing's inactive for whatever reason. The seller's sick, or there's a lot of multiple offers that the seller doesn't want to entertain anything anymore. They want to put a hold status to go ahead and review that. They're sick, they're out of town, they're going to be repairs. Keep in mind that you can only be in this status for 30 days at a time. So if your client is saying, well, Cece, I'm gonna, do repairs and it's gonna take me a month, and then I'm gonna go out of town for another month, keep in mind that on the 29th day, you have to go and update it and schedule it for the other 30 days so it doesn't turn into active, okay? And then withdrawn. Withdrawn means that there's still an active listing agreement. However, it is not being available in the MLS for whatever reason. The seller no longer wants to continue, but the broker doesn't want to let them out their contract. They want them to go ahead and comply to the end of the contract, or it could be any other reason. Oh, did I freeze? Yes, no, did I freeze? So it could be for any other reason what they want to withdraw. So please, if you see this on the MLS, do not solicit the seller. That means it doesn't mean that the seller is active to be solicited. Coming soon has been very popular with us this year. A lot of our agents like it because you can have a property on coming soon for 21 days. You could do marketing, you could do an email blasting, this property's coming down on the market, create that buzz, and you can have it for 21 days. And the cool thing about this is that you don't get any days on market. However, you can only be under a coming soon status for 21 days, and there are no showings allowed. So for example, if you have a listing that's on coming soon, started October 1st, when active October 10th, but you still have, you're like, well, it could be 21 days, you can go back to active. For whatever reason, that weekend came, you made it active, and like you didn't create that buzz and you want to put it back, you're not allowed to do that. Once you go active, whether you use the whole 21 days or not, you're not allowed to come back to coming soon. And then pending pretty much means that the property's pending, the seller's not soliciting any other offers. Canceled means that there is no longer an agreement valid between the brokerage and the seller. You should still not solicit these sellers on the MLS. Please do not use that data. It is a violation of the MLS. And then you guys know what sold means and expired. And then register. Register, I know this is very popular. So before you guys were able to exclude a listing onto the MLS, you guys had to send that SCLM form to CRMLS. Now you don't have to do that. Anytime your seller wants to exclude a listing from the MLS, you can go onto the listing toolbox, put in the property, and then just let the system know when it's going to go active. And then you can just, the only people that can see this listing under register status is your association, your broker, and CRMLS. So even though it's on the MLS as a registered status, there's no one else that can see it. Okay, and you can be on this registered status as long as your client wants. You can be on it for the whole time. You can be on it for like 60 days. So it's really up to you, but it's an option for you to use. Okay, any questions so far about what I've gone through?
Yes, as a matter of fact, clarification.
Yes.
So we know that there are certain statuses that doesn't require additional written instructions from the seller, for example, to change a status. If it goes from active to pending, for example, or active under contract, we have a signed contract. However, when going from coming soon to active, must you have written instructions on if you place it active prior to the anticipated date in the contract? Must you have written instructions from the seller to change it to active?
Absolutely. You so to put it under coming soon, it's this form is actually available in SIP forms. You guys do have a tab in SIP forms that says CRMLS. It's called the coming soon form. It does need to be signed by your seller in order to be in a coming soon status. And pretty much is just letting you know, and like if you were to get audited, that you do have this form and your seller did, you know, give you permission to put it on coming soon, and it lets you know when do you want to go active, you know. And if for whatever reason you guys go active, you know, for that form, you guys can always just create an addendum. But yes, you do need written documentation for that, Richard. Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through the schedule you have here. So remember, going active, you need a valid listing contract and instructions for it to be active. Under contract, there's no written instructions required from the seller. It's part of the authorization you've been giving through your existing contract. Withdrawn, that does require written authorization from your seller, or if there's a dispute between you and the seller, and you can document that within 2 days of documenting that dispute, you can place it in a withdrawn status. Coming soon, you need the coming soon form. Remember, that should be attached and signed at the same time the listing contract is completed. Pending does not require any additional written authorization. Cancel would require a cancellation of contract. And expired, obviously, there's nothing to do. And remember, registered, the section 7 of the listing contract should be completed if it's not going to be marketed immediately, or it can use the SCLM, but it's just easier to use the listing contract. So Cece, did I get all that right?
You know what? You got everything right. This is why you're one of my good presiding officers.
Okay, thank you.
You nailed it. But yes, you always want to have written documentation, just because I'm sure that your offices require. However, CRMLS can also just give you an audit saying, hey, you know what? We saw this listing on 123 Main Street. We want to see documentation, you know, from your seller. And you do have to provide that documentation within 1 business day to avoid a fine. Okay. So I know you guys are really good with that because you guys have a good broker. So I don't want to go ahead and drill you on that. But another common violation that we see on the MLS is that we'll see an agent put a listing on the MLS. They'll go ahead and put it as active. But then if you go to the showing instructions, it says no showing until the showing instructions get updated. And this could be like 2 days later or a week later. This is definitely a violation of the MLS, because if you have comments such as there's no showings, then that property needs to be put on hold. Okay. And that is kind of like an automatic fine. They really don't give you a chance to correct that. And they start at $250. And I know we don't want to give CRMLS more money than we need to. So just be careful with that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to T. And then T, just let me know when you want me to go.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so another one of our most common violations is mandatory delivery of a listing agreement, which is MLS Rule 7.8. This rule states that a listing agent or broker must either exclude the listing from the MLS or enter the listing into the MLS within 2 calendar days of the effective list date. So what is the effective list date? It is the later date or the later signature, or it could be the beginning date of a listing as specified in the contract. So when the seller signs a listing contract, they can do one of 2 things. The listing broker has 2 calendar days from the listing contract effective date to input the listing in as registered, coming soon, or active. or within 1 business day of marketing the property, the listing broker must ensure that the listing is either in coming soon or an active status. But no, if the property is never marketed, the listing does not need to be placed in coming soon or active. Do we have any questions on that? Okay. No? Okay, Cece, you can go to the next slide. So this leads us into coming soon, which was created in 2020. So when a listing is put into coming soon, marketing is allowed. It will be displayed in the MLS. It must be displayed in the MLS. Commissions offered. There's no days on market. There's limited distribution through the MLS. There's absolutely no showings, and it can only be in coming soon for 21 days. So this leads us to 7.9.1, no cooperation listing. So this states a listing broker or agent may withhold a listing from the MLS if a seller in writing refuses to permit the property being listed or marketed, or if the seller instructs the listing broker or agent to not disseminate the listing in the MLS. If this is the case, then the listing broker or agent must have a seller's either complete seller instruction to exclude the listing from the multiple listing service and days on market, which is the SELM form, or section 7D 1 or 2 of the RLA must be filled out. Okay, so there was a new procedure implemented to exclude a listing, which was the registered status. So it says if the seller wishes to have their listing to be excluded from the MLS for either a set period of time or indefinitely, the proper documents must be completed and signed. The listing broker or agent will now input the listing into the MLS under the registered status. So what's required for the registered status? You'll need an address, the listing contract date, the price, the expiration date, or the marketing start date. When the listing is input into registered, no marketing can be done. It will not be displayed in the MLS. No commissions will be offered. There are no days on market, no distribution through the MLS, and showings only to listing broker client. So who can see these registered listings? Only the listing agent, the listing broker, office managers, and MLS staff. Do we have any questions about registered listings?
And then T, you might define how one defines a client. It's, well, I'll just say it. It's considered to be a client of yours and you're not subject to not showing the property under registered status if you have a signed agency disclosure. So that would not, any information provided to somebody who gave signed agency disclosure prior to you showing the property and you present that information to the client, that is not deemed to be public marketing. So that's an exception in regards to showing.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this leads us to rule 7.9, which is mandatory submission upon marketing. So what this states is that within 1 business day of marketing or advertising a property to the public for sale, the listing broker must submit the property into the MLS for cooperation with other CRMLS participants. Now, within this, the most important is what we have here in red. This talks about the marketing. So marketing and advertising includes, but is not limited to, any information about the property or its availability for sale displayed on any signs, websites, social media, brokerage or franchise operated websites, communications, whether it's verbal or written, multi-brokerage or franchise listing sharing networks, flyers or written material on any applications, or by conducting an open house. Do we have any questions regarding this?
And keep in mind, you'll look at the listing contract and it'll ask if we're exempt from the clear cooperation policy. We are not. So regardless of the seller's instructions, if you market the property, you must put it on the MLS.
Yes. Cece, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so this takes us to our next game, which is what are the top violations that may not be included in your video or on the MLS, your video or photo? And you can go ahead and put your answers in the chat, and then Cece, if you want me to read them or if you want to read them off.
What was the question?
Let's see.
What is not allowed in your media in the photos or videos when you input them in the MLS? What is not allowed? Oh, let's see what we got.
Okay, I know what's not allowed.
What's not allowed?
Having your signs, the for sale sign with the agent's name on in front of your house.
All right, that was actually number one.
one.
And my
then
name is Ann, by the way.
Okay, we'll get you. And then I saw another one from Carmenza. She put, oh, we have John put pets. Pets is number 3. Oops. And then we have people. People's number 2.
Mhm.
When you mean branding, what do you mean by branding? A little bit more specific about branding, what's not allowed?
Agent information or the office information, you know.
You're
on the
right.
video.
So you're getting all of them right. So I'm just going to put them. You can't put your email address. That's contact information. You cannot put your website. You cannot put your phone number. And what is the last one? The last one has been really, really big. What is not allowed in your photo?
When the cars are parking and they show the license plates.
That's one of them, yes.
People.
People, yeah. It's already on their agent name and photo,
Oh, yeah.
yes. The last one. Nudity, yeah, that's a big one, John. We don't allow that in the MLS. Absolutely.
I think in Palm Springs, they allow it though, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
In
don't,
Palm Springs, they allow nudity in the photos.
I'm wondering which
No.
John that was. John Bass, of course.
I don't know about Palm Springs. I think CDAR, you know, they're their own type of MLS. So I don't know, John. Well, the last one, I'll just go ahead and share it with you guys, is a watermark. So anytime you're going to use a photo from the MLS, make sure that there's no watermarks, okay? That is not allowed in the MLS. Go ahead, Keith.
What about bad photos?
Bad photos. I don't know if that's a violation. So it should be.
All right, so this leads us to MLS rule 11.5, photographs on the MLS. So a listing must include one photo of the exterior structure of the property on the MLS. This photo must be added to the listing within 2 calendar days of entering the listing into the MLS and must remain at all times. There are exemptions to this rule. A few of them are business opportunity entries. If the seller has written instruction, if the listing is canceled within the first 2 calendar days, and if the listing is registered. Okay. Okay, does anyone have any questions about the photos?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay, so then I'll move on to the copyright issues. So this is 11.5B. So it's basically stating that when you submit any media to the MLS, you are telling CRMLS that you own the right to display the media or that you attain such rights to do so. Now, this is crucial because if the listing agent and listing broker do not obtain the appropriate rights before uploading any media into the MLS, they are potentially looking at a $1,500 fine without warning.
Okay.
Okay.
We do have a question, and the question is, let's see if I had it up. Does the exterior picture need to be the primary photo throughout the listing period?
No.
No, it does not need to be the primary photo. You can arrange your photos however you'd like, but it does need to be there.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so now we're moving on to MLS Rule 11.5, which are branded photos and virtual tours. So photographs and virtual tours may not contain the following. They may not have agent, broker, or brokerage names or photos or logos. They may not contain phone numbers, website addresses, email addresses, for sale or for lease signs, open house signs, any promotion signs, or any other advertising material with identifiable information. No messages or solicitations, no images of people, animals, or other items not directly related to the listing. Now, virtual tours must be listing specific and must not link to an agent or broker's website or any other website. If this is done, CRMLS refuses or reserves the right to remove any photos or virtual tours from the MLS that are not in compliance with this section. Okay. Now, here are a few examples of photos that would not be allowed. So the first photo we have, the top left, is a photograph of a house, but it's a cartoon photo. So does it depict a house? Absolutely. But does it show the house that you're listing? No. So we would not want this to be on the MLS. Okay. The second photo in the middle, we see here that there are people in the photo, and we learned earlier that we cannot have people in the photo. We can see people dancing. You may want to say, hey, this would be a great house to entertain, but because there's faces that can be made out, it turns into a safety issue. So we don't want to put these photos, especially without their permission. Okay. So the third photo at the top, this looks like it's an image that was taken from Google. Now, does it show homes in the area? Yes, but we can't depict what home you're selling from showing this. So this wouldn't be a good photo for us to put on the MLS, right? So now we have a photo at the bottom left. In this photo, we see that it has a car in the driveway. We don't want to take any photos with cars in the driveway because the license plates are visible and we don't want that. We want to protect our sellers at all costs. So we don't want to put photos with their car. We don't want to give too much information about the seller to the public. Okay. And then we have a photo of a dog in the middle, and so adorable. I mean, I'm sure if you put this photo, the buyers would be sold on it. But unless the dog comes with the house, cannot post a photo of the dog.
Okay, if it does go to the house.
If it goes to the house, we post it. Is that what you're suggesting?
Hey,
Okay.
yeah.
See, somebody asked me a question, and it's half serious. Oh, there are people that are using mannequins in pictures.
Oh,
They're not people. They're not pets.
I'll snitch them out if you give me a gift.
Realtors are very creative, so I assume that's not a violation.
Cece, have you heard anything? I haven't seen these photos yet.
You know what? Technically, according to the rule, it's not a violation. You know, you guys are staging the property. So you can always refer to the rule. Mannequins are not real people, they're props. So, you know, I would say no. You should be good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so our last photo we have here, it looks like it was taken from Google, and it looks like the person copied the photo and then took it, scanned it, wrote their own caption, and from it you can see it's a little distorted. So again, we don't want to take any photos that aren't our own photos that we took or were taken by a photographer. Okay. Cece, if you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah.
All right, so we have MLS Rule 7.2, which is broker participant. So if a listing broker, including any subscriber, has any interest in a property, the listing, which is disseminated through the MLS shall contain a disclosure of that interest of the MLS. So an agent needs to disclose on the listing if they have a personal vested interest in a property. So either as owner or landlord, relation to the owner or landlord, or potential purchaser, leasee of the property. Now, if you go into the listing under our features tab, there is a spot under disclosures for listing agent, owner relationship, and you can also put it in the private remarks as well. Okay. All right, so where can I access CRMLS rules and policies? So we do know you can access them on CRMLS's website, but you can also access them on our website. If you go to www.ocrealtors.org and you go under MLS, you will find the rules policies. You can click on that and it'll take you to the MLS rules. It'll also link you to our citation policy, which is awesome because we know the MLS rules are 52 pages. They're very wordy, and I know we don't all have the time to read through them, but the citation policy is awesome because it gives you the rule, whether or not it comes with a warning. It'll give you a brief summary of that rule, and it'll give you the fine price. So you can start here, and if you want a little bit more information, then you can go to the actual CRMLS rules and get more detail about these rules.
What's
Okay.
the most expensive fine with that? 2,500. Is that all of them? No, it's more. How many is the most expensive license?
What was the question, Ryan?
What's the most expensive fine you could get?
It's not having or failing to put a listing in 7.8. So it's a minimum 1% up to a fine of $2,500. At one time, it was suggested the fine be $5,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's expensive. There's a few 2,500. And then not only that, remember if you're in front of a professional standards committee because someone filed an ethics complaint for some of these violations, it's reportable to the Department of Real Estate, and that's at the discretion of the hearing panel. So they could take it upon themselves to report that to the Department of Real Estate, something we certainly want to avoid.
Yeah, and just so you guys know too, and I don't want to scare you, but CRMLS actually implemented a rule that if you receive 3 RMLS citations in 1 calendar year, is going to turn into a disciplinary complaint. And to top it off, your broker gets added to a respondent saying, hey, Richard, you have John here not following the rules here to receive 3 citations in a calendar year. We're now going to go ahead and turn it into a disciplinary complaint. And when it comes to a disciplinary complaint, if you're a fine in violation and the panel members gives you a letter of reprimand, a fine, you do get published with your picture and CAR, and it stays on there for 3 years. Not that I want to scare you,
Yeah, she's
and-
serious. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a monetary fine, right? It can be published there.
So a lot what was happening is that a lot of agents were like, oh, you know what, it's an MLS violation. It's okay. It's the cost of doing business, right? So CAR and CRMLS came together and actually said, no more. You get 3 or more, disciplinary complaint, we name your broker. And that's when, everything else happened. So me and T are here today just to kind of keep you informed of what the violations are, how easily they can happen, and how you can avoid them. So just keep in mind that if you ever have any questions regarding that, you can always reach out to us.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. You guys have any other questions for us?
Anyone? I don't see anything in the chat box.
John asked if you can choose the picture they use.
Oh, John. What was the question?
Can you choose which picture they use for your violation? Picture.
Yes,
You
John, you
actually
can
can.
choose your picture.
Well, John, it has to be updated. So don't give me a picture that you were an agent 20 years ago. And I think they're not allowing any filters. That's like the 2 rules. They can't be like an old one, no filters.
John, this is the same John that asked if nudity was permitted, right?
Oh, John, now I know who you are. John Barris. Okay, now I know. All right. Well, with that said, thank you so much for having us today. So yeah, anytime you guys need me, you guys know that we're available to you guys. Okay. So thank you
Cece
so
and T,
much.
thank you so much for everything. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank
No
you for having us.
problem. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. You have a nice day.